Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Hello, I'm Nick Dunning. I'm the creator of Total Audition Magician and the author of How to Get Acting Work Quickly. And first off, I would like to invite you to sign up. Ding! And hit the bell. Tips, tools, and techniques to turn you into an in-demand, on-screen actor. That's what we're going to be talking about today. So I'm going to give you 3 tips today that we're going to be talking about, which is how to stand out in your acting auditions. This is part 2. If you want to check out part 1, it'll be the video before this. And guess what's coming next? Yes, it's part 3. Oh, we know it all here, guys. This is fantastic. So the 3 tips I'm going to give you today, the third one is going to be the one you will not have thought of before. And it's really powerful. And I really urge you to keep watching this until you get this gem. It's so cool. Number 1. By the way, we're going to do some Q&A at the end as well. So if you'd like to do that, that'd be great. So think about your questions. So guys, number 1, the first point I want to talk about today is what I call owning the room. Making the room yours, not theirs. When you make it your room, it's like a kind of playground. It becomes your playground. Good morning, Arlene. Good morning, and Siobhan. How lovely to see you. Ah, you made it this morning, Siobhan. Morning, Indra. How are you guys? Nice to see you. So the first one, yeah, owning the room. Make it yours, not theirs. Okay. When we start projecting into the future and starting thinking, oh, I'm getting nervous and anxious and this, that, and the other, you are disempowering yourself. You are handling all of your power over to the other person. The casting people, the scary casting people, they're going to make you, and it's going to increase that sense of horror. Amber, good morning. Glad to see you in there. Thanks for subscribing. Lovely to see you. Okay, so owning the room is about making the room yours so that you take charge, you take control of your time in that moment that you're in there. You may be there for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever it is. Make it yours. Make it work for you. Okay, give you an example of this. I often do a lot of reading for theatres and for film companies and doing all that sort of stuff. A lot of auditions I do, sometimes I do them in Dublin, sometimes I do them in London. One I did once, and there was, you've all heard that thing of when you come into the room, the first moment that you come into the room is super critical. It's so true. One woman I was working with, she came in, I was sitting there with the director, the producer, and I was being the reader because I was going to be in the show and I was kind of like, you know, working like that. And we're trying to cast. You've probably all been up for that kind of situation. We did this on stage and this woman came in, she was, I don't know, she's mid-30s, something like that. She came in at the back of the theatre and walked all the way down the back of the theatre, all the way up to the theatre. And you could just tell by her body language that she was terrified. Terrified. She just didn't want to be there. She was invisible. She had already pretty much lost the job before she came in because she wasn't convincing the people that she could handle it. Now, as you and I know, that doesn't necessarily mean that her talent was better or worse than anyone else's. But the way that you come in, the way you own that room, coming in, making a decision to make it yours, transmits. The other thing that happened with another person, I'll give you something else that happened. One woman came, actually it was a woman. Guys do this too, though. Don't think this is in any way sexist. It happens all the time. This woman came in and she had made her mind up about what she was going to do with the role. She came in, she started to do her audition, and she did it. She'd learnt it completely. She'd learnt it in a particular way. And then the director, after giving her a chance to do it once or twice, she said, well, what about trying this or trying that? And she did exactly the same the way that she'd done it before. She wasn't open enough to hear the adjustments or the suggestions that were being given. She was just doing her performance, just being good, right? She got it so rigid and so constructed that she wasn't flexible. So that, again, that almost just knocks you off the park. You know, people are just, well, I can't work with it. I can't relate to this person. So what we're talking about, owning the room and making it yours, is when you're doing the audition, you're going in there to do your job and lose the fears. And those of you, I know, look, I do understand it gets nerve-wracking. I do understand the fears. If you haven't seen it, do check out the training that we did the last couple of weeks. under the 3 training called Breakthrough to Success, which shows you how to handle those fears, okay? The second thing I want to talk about is this. So making the room yours. The second thing I want to talk about is this. Here we go. Life is the C between B and D. And you can see the C in the middle between the B and the D. This is a quote from Jean-Paul Sartre, famous French philosopher, essayist, writer. Life is the C between B and D. What on earth does that mean? The C stands for choices. Life is the choices that you make between birth and death. Heavy moment. Let's get out of that for a sec. Okay, so what does he mean by that? The choices that you make between now and when we all pass away are going to be the most critical that we're going to make in our lives. This affects us now in terms of coronavirus. It affects us now in terms of our auditions. It affects us now in terms of the way that we move forward in the world. It affects us now with everything we do. In auditioning, what this really, really means, and this works for self-taping too, is, I'll give you an example. I was talking to a rather well-known casting director when I was shooting Da Vinci's Demons, which was a show I did for Stars US. Huge set, massive, it's the biggest set in Europe. Absolutely extraordinary, you know, cameras all over the place, coming down here. They used to shoot with 5 cameras on every scene. That'll give you an idea of the scale. Here's another little tip. We're not a tip, a little insight. We were shooting what was it called now? Oh yeah, the Duomo in Florence. Any of you been to the Duomo in Florence? We had a full-size replica of the Duomo. If you've ever been there, you'll know what that is. This is the size of the scale we're talking about. So the woman who was casting this was clearly someone who knew what she was doing. I started talking to her, and after a while, I was asking her, you know, what is it you think you could help with actors? What mistakes do actors make? She said the biggest mistake that actors make is that they think that they are that they don't really have to work in the auditions that they're doing. They all come over often as what she describes as white cats in a snowstorm. Right? And I said, what does she mean by that? Basically, she's talking about a vanilla performance. Something is the same as everybody else does. Let's assume, you know, there's a show going on and there's a scene they send out, there are sides that are coming out. These are the things that you've got to do with. All the other actors on the planet who are coming out for the same role are going to be looking at the same sides, right? They're going to come in. So if you have let's say you have a line like, you know, I love you, and you say, I love you, and most people will, you know, a man, woman, whichever direction it's going, often will play, you know, rather touching, I love you, right? Right, that's what we're going to do. The casting director is going to hear that line 99 times that day in exactly the same way. And if she wasn't asleep by the 5th, she'll be asleep by the 10th. Your job in there is to kind of like to stir their imagination, to quirk them up, to do something unusual, something that's going to give them a little bit different, something just a little bit more magical. Give you an idea about that. Oh, by the way, Robert De Niro said, talent is in the choices. And when you think about it, there's a wonderful scene in Philip Seymour Hoffman when he comes in, and I can't remember the name of the movie, but there's a scene where he comes in and he has to destroy the room. And what he does is he comes in and he's got his cups and there's a whole load of things on it and money on it and something like that. And the scene, I'm sure it would have been written, he goes bananas and destroys the room. How many times have we seen that, right? How many times have we seen that particular, you know, I can't bear it, oh, I hate the world, I hate my wife, I hate children, whatever it is, right? We've seen that 1,000 times. He sits there and you can see him shivering and shaking with this kind of like the rage of this thing. And he's carrying this tray, and all the stuff that's on the tray just starts to fall off. And you go, oh my God, this is a guy who's been in so much in control. He's devastated by the news that he's just seen and heard. Devastated so much by it. His whole body is shaking so much, the stuff is just dropping off the tray. Completely different way of doing things. Give you an example. Yeah, one of the shows that I did a show called Little Women for PBS. It's a huge, big show. and we shot it over in Dublin over here, and it was a wonderful, wonderful show. And I was to play the doctor in it, and you know the Little Women story, right? So it's predominantly about women. I was playing the doctor, and I had a scene that I was when I was audition sending my tape in that literally said something like, hey Joe, I have to tell you that Amy's dead. Right? I mean, pretty horrendous thing to say. And again, my first thought, my vanilla choice was, Amy, I have to tell you that Joe's dead. Whichever it was, I can't remember which daughter died. They all seem to die. Anyway, that kind of thing, right? And that's the way my first thought was that. Then I thought, hold on a sec, let's think about this. Let's think about this a little bit. This is the kind of thinking I want you to get into the habit of doing, is that whenever you're looking at something, don't do your first choice. The first choice will be obvious and everyone will be doing it. Start using your kind of skills to get into this. Those of you who followed my stuff for a while know and will know about my 13 steps to a performance checklist. Go through that checklist. Use it to inspire and create new ways of looking at scenes. So what I did in that particular instance, I decided, okay, this guy is a doctor, right? We know that. We're now talking it was like in the early 1900s. So we'd be talking about very small groups of villages where people lived in America. These people are going to be so close to each other, they all know each other. A bit like Dublin now, everybody's really close together. Well, not now because it's COVID, but you know what I'm saying, right? Everybody knows each other, okay? And I thought that intimacy, that level of intimacy probably means that the doctor may have been there at the birth of all of the little women. It probably means that he has an intimate relationship with the mother. It probably means that he has a personal relationship with the mother, a personal relationship with them growing up. Maybe they all had, tonsillitis, they all had laryngitis, they all had all the chickenpox, all those things, right? Starting to use my imagination to fill in everything that was there. Yeah? Beth, exactly. Thank you, Siobhan. Exactly, right? Filling in these details. So I made these choices, but he knew them at that point. And when he had to come in and deliver the line, which was about, I have to tell you that Beth has died, I thought, what would happen if he thought that was just funny? Not funny, ha-ha, but like the irony of having to say that to people he's known that closely for so long. So I tried it like that, and he went, something like, got to tell you that Beth has died. Right? Just a little tiny little difference. And I know that's what got me the job, because I spoke to the director afterwards. Because that's history that went into that tiny little moment, made all the difference. So I urge you to think about the choices. If it just says, generic, let's say it's a doctor, let's not just imagine that, the doctor is a man or a woman with a stethoscope around the head and this and the other. Let's give them a background, give them a life, give them some thinking, give them some history. This works for 2-line parts, 5-line parts, 10-line, bigger part, the same. You're investing something. You're using and showing what it is that you can do in a completely different way. That makes sense? Let me know. What do you think? What do you think about that? Does that make sense? Is that something you might try? Might you give that a go, Jojo? What do you reckon? Could be cool? Stopping for a couple of moments here. Lovely cappuccino. I wish I could give you one. I'd pour you all one out and you could all join me. I wish I could do it. Okay. Now, the third one I want you to think about is this. I think this is the most underused skill in an audition. Silence. Just as a matter of opinion, here's Karen. Hey Karen, how you doing? And Katie Sheridan is here. God, everybody's here. How marvellous. What do you feel when I just go silent? Write it in the comments. What do you feel when I go silent? Amber says it's interesting. Good. Good. Thank you. Appreciate that. It is interesting. What we're trying to do here is not just think about, I'm an actor, got to get the gig, got to get in there, got to make, we're trying to think about how can we actually activate what it is that we do. Intrigue. Exactly. Intrigue. It makes you lean in. Siobhan says definitely. It makes you lean in. Arlene says, I'm drawn to you and I want to know what you're thinking. Katie says it makes you feel curious. Guess what? Indra says thoughtful. Guess what else is going on? The casting director is also thinking curious, drawn to you, leaning in, thoughtful. Connor says anticipation. Hey Connor, how you doing? Right? Leaning in, creating anticipation, creating intrigue, creating new ways of looking at things. I don't know how many of you have been watching Normal People. Let me know if you've been watching Normal People. Have you seen it? If you haven't, watch Normal People. There's an extraordinary stuff that you see in there. For me, I just love it. May not be everyone's cup of tea, but I think it's fantastic. In the first couple of episodes as well, when now, here we go. Ronan says, I agree with Arlene. Drawn to you and I want to know what you're thinking. Exactly. Ronan is a director, by the way, just so you know. Okay? And from a director's point of view, would you agree with that, Ronan? That you become more intrigued in what's going on when you have that moment? Yeah? Yes. Okay. How many of you think you can be silent in an audition? It's the listening moment. Arlene, this is absolutely right. Arlene has just said, a casting director once said to find a scene for a show that shows more silence and listening than speaking. It's the listening moment she looks for. Absolutely. That's where we're all focused. If you get drawn into, and I find Normal People completely, I'm besotted by it. I find it extraordinary. What Lenny does, and it's a combination of everybody, right? But what Lenny does is leaves the camera hanging on moments. Whenever there's a devastating moment, which he or she has, Connell or Marianne, doesn't matter really who, whenever there's a moment of devastation, the camera, let's say, I'm leaving to go to Trinity, right? Let's say it's that, and it devastates her, okay? That moment. Let's say it's a devastation moment. When you go into that, those are the moments that most actors go, ooh, what am I going to do with this? Ooh, I don't know how I'm going to play that. I'm going to have to play sadness. I'm going to have to play, worry. I'm going to have to play panic, fear, whatever. If you just literally go into silence, it makes the audience lean in to what it is that you're doing. And guess what? Casting directors are also audiences. When you go in, you're going in to an audience. Oh, Karen just says, a director said the same to me once. He was doing group auditions for a Guinness commercial and he picked those who were listening, not talking. Exactly. What we're doing, you must remember, when we're doing film, particularly, we're doing a visual medium. It's a visual medium. Anyone who's a director, a cameraman, producer, they're used to looking at pictures, moving images. And the two ways really that here's an example. Give me some comments in here. What is it that, give me 3 things that you've seen, moments that stand out in your mind from movies you've seen. I'm just going to think of a couple myself while you're thinking, but give me 3 things that you've thought about in the comments about, moments from a TV show, moments from and we're talking moments, not the entire movie, just moments that really impact you, the ones that have stayed with you. are still there after all these years, right? That kind of stuff. Think about those and give me in the comments which ones you think. I'm just going to think of three things I can think of. The first one that pops into my head is the extraordinary opening to Lawrence of Arabia. I know a lot of you guys may not have seen that. It's kind of an older person's film, but if you haven't, just watch the opening. There's an extraordinary moment when out of the desert, Peter O'Toole is looking out into the desert, and there's nothing but this extraordinary sunlit horizon. And way over in the distance, there's a mirage, and something is appearing, and we don't know what it is. Again, we're curious, we're leaning in. And out of it, Omar Sharif arrives on the camel, right? You may know that one. It's an incredibly powerful image. Give me some of yours. What do you think? Which ones would you say? Just moments that you remember. I was talking earlier about that one from Philip Seymour Hoffman. Just think of others. Let me think. Oh, I think pretty much anything Sean Penn has done. A lot of his stuff really just gets me. I remember watching a film that he did called Carlito's Way. I didn't even realize it was Sean Penn. I literally, by the end of the, I mean, who was that guy? He had this completely different hair. His hair was different. You know, the Pretty Woman moment when Richard Gere snapped the ring box. Wasn't scripted. Absolutely. You kind of, ah! I remember that incredibly clearly. The film Crash. Katie says in the film Crash with Sandra Bullock, when she's really angry, she just stops and goes silent for a bit. And when she speaks again, all the emotion comes out. Right? Again, that's what we're talking about. Daniel Day-Lewis, leave me my name in the Crucible. Absolutely. Leave me my name. Absolutely. Another one for Dan Day-Lewis. I remember Dan Day-Lewis going in what was it? Last of the Mohicans, when he's underneath the, I will find you. Right? Extraordinary moment. We remember these moments because they activate this extraordinary kind of response in us. They activate, call me by your name, the very last scene is heartbreaking. Absolutely. Yeah. Elliot stares into the fire. Absolutely. Oh my God. Oh yes. The Javier Bardem scene in No Country for Old Men when he's in the shop with the old man, scaring him. And he's got this thing. That terrifying. Absolutely terrifying. The moment with Joe Pesci, in Goodfellas, it was, remember that one? Right? These moments, these are what you want to do. Now, you're not always going to get, the ability to be able to do some extraordinary thing. But look what silence can do for you. Consider it. Being effective. Get the idea? Cool. Absolutely. Oh, absolutely. Connor says Fassbender and Cunningham in Hunger. The two of them at the table, opposite each other, like unbelievable, extraordinary scene. Imagine having to shoot that several times. Oh my God, one take, right? Absolutely extraordinary stuff. This is the kind of stuff we're looking for. But what we're trying to do is we're trying to reveal human moments that make people feel curious, excited. This is what we're doing. We're generating this energy to make people feel this way. We want to do that with casting directors when you go into the room. Is that the same kind of thing? Okay, so that's my three things. I want to just give you a little bit about how I got into all of this. I hope that's useful. And then we can do some Q&A if that's okay. I started off, the reason my whole site came together really was a long time ago. Now, some of you will know this, but those of you who don't, I wanted to just share it with you. I came out of drama school, when when the world was black and white, as you know, with the mammoths and the saber-toothed tigers were everywhere. It was such a long time ago. Fred Flintstone. Anyway, let's start. Right. Essentially, one of the gigs that I got was in the rep system. I went up to York Theatre Royal and I was performing as Algernon in The Importance of Being Earnest, which was a wonderful play. Fantastic part. One of my first big parts. Was just so exciting. And as we got closer and closer to the press night, because of the responsibility of the whole thing, I think it was my first, sort of like really big part. I started to feel this incredible sense of responsibility and I got absolutely terrified. I felt really scared about going on stage with something I just thought I couldn't do. Have you ever had that? Ever had that moment where you just feel so frightened about things and you can't quite handle things? That's how I felt. And I was so frightened. I left the theatre and I went back to my flat just before the press night. And I thought, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going on. I'm not going. Just not doing it. Went into the flat, drew the curtains, sat down on the bed. It was so dark in there, and the only thing I could see was a bottle of bleach on the kitchen sink over there. And I looked at it, and I was seriously thinking, if I drank that now, that'd be the end of me, and nobody would give a shit. Nobody would care about that. I could do this. This is a way of getting out of that sort of pain. And then the doorbell rang. And what happened was a friend of mine came in, and she was the director. And she came in and she talking to me about what was going on. And she said, she started to do what I now realize was coaching me. She was kind of coaching me back out and basically, showing me that there was something inside of me, that there was something that I was valuable, that there was a kind of worth to myself, that my performance was important. And to this day, I still don't know how I did it. I really don't. But I managed to go back on that night. I went on and I did the show, and I came out afterwards and I thought, you know what? I've got to find out why I had this kind of collapse inside, what it was all about. And that's what set me off on a kind of a journey of discovery, trying to figure out what it is how the brain works for actors. Why is it that my mind is giving me all this stuff? Why is it causing this kind of fears and panics and worries and upsets and stress and sense of just such devastation inside? So I started to look around, and I found a book called Frogs into Princes by Richard Bandler. I looked into that. And to this day, I found it in a place called Watkins Books in London. Anyone know Watkins Books? Do you know that one? Anyway, and it was in there, and I got a copy of this book, and I started reading it, and I had a question in there called the Miracle Question. And the Miracle Question goes like this. And this is what got me excited. It said, just imagine for a moment that you went to sleep tonight, and when you woke up in the morning, every single thing that you want in your life is there. If it was all there, what would it look like? What would it feel like? And what would it sound like? And I started to imagine all of those things that I was wondering about. And I started to imagine, being on screen and bigger jobs and working around and eventually kind of being in the movies and doing all that stuff. And I started to visualize the whole notion of what it was that I wanted to happen for me. And then I started to learn more and more about it. I learned absolutely everything I could about the human brain, the way it works. Neuroscience, I studied I went to classes, I went to lectures, I went to workshops. I did all the stuff that I could possibly do to find out. Well, I thought, you know what it was? I thought there has to be a better way for me and for actors to actually go on. There must be a way that we can make it happen so that people, you can go on stage, you can be yourself, you can be free, you can be comfortable, you can be confident. And that's what I wanted to do. And that's what I started to learn. That's how I set this whole site up. That's how it came out. That's what the entire journey has all been about. Yeah. And since then, as you know, the visualization stuff, I remember sitting in this particular room, visualizing when I was going out for an interview for Alexander, the movie, seeing myself in the room, which was filming down in Dunleary, seeing myself going into the room, imagining it going incredibly well, feeling that sense of confidence in my body, hearing the sound of the casting director really relating to me, knowing that I was totally in flow, totally confident, feeling really good about what I was doing, knowing that's what was happening. And I went into the room, went in there, nailed it. Got a call back, went in, met Oliver Stone. 2 or 3 weeks later, I was sitting in the desert in Morocco, talking to Angelina Jolie, having a lollipop. In fact, Angelina Jolie gave me her lollipop. How cool is that? I also thought that might be the title of a biography, but I'm not sure. Anyway, that kind of thing, right? That's what the journey has been about for me. It's what I want to encourage you. This is why I'm kind of, I want to end suffering for actors. It's not necessary. It truly is not necessary. It's needless. We can do things differently. There are other ways of doing new things. Okay? And that's what I want to coach you guys into to thinking about doing. That's what I'm here for. That's what I'm about. Okay, so any questions about what we've been talking about today? Kieran says, yeah, Anthony Hopkins, Silence of the Lambs, yes. Hey Kieran, how are you? Good to see you. Anthony Hopkins, Silence of the Lambs, silence is haunting, frightening. Thank you, thank you. Great stream. Good, good. Yeah, that's the kind of thing. It makes you lean in. It creates anticipation. It creates curiosity. Yeah? Does anyone have any questions? Anyone got anything they're talking about? Anything that we've been doing? I just want to go back to, yeah, Katie talking about that. Yeah, when Sandra Bullock was really angry and then she just stops and goes silent. Right? You just go silent. Because she's processing, right? She's processing what's going on. It's like being whacked in the stomach. You hear it, poof. And then you have to recover, right? We've all got these experiences. We need to look more, become more what I call the Sherlocks, become our own personal Sherlocks. Check what it is, see what you see, hear what you hear, see what's going on out there. The more you live, the more you're actively engaged in everything that's going on, the more you'll see these choices, the more they will become available. You start getting curious about this. Start noticing the way people are. When you're out for your daily walk from the COVID walk, start seeing what happens. What do people really like? What are they moving? How are they thinking? Get the idea? So, any other questions, guys? Oh, gosh, yeah. Marianne when she's at the sink. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Just, so quiet, so detailed, and so devastating. Now, it depends where you are. I don't want to spoil the spoilers. I'm up to episode 8. So, there's a scene where she just goes and she just moves out of the way and just walks out of the room last night, and you can just see just a quarter of her body, and it's just shaking. Be honest, how many of you think about the theatricality and the filmic quality of your self-taping when you do this, right? You can use the fact that you've only got, right? You can enter. Your screen can be is your performance area. It's your arena. You can use the screen in different ways. When I'm going to be releasing Self-Taping Secrets 2.0, I'm going to be taking you through the 4 pillars of how you actually create a great self-tape. I'm also going to give you the 3 explosion techniques. These are the explosion techniques that actually have made all the difference. I've got 4 out of the last 5 self-tapes purely by doing these things. I'm going to share those in that when that comes out. Okay? I'm also going to give you 3 of my winning self-tapes, and I'm going to take you through the sides, the actual performance on the self-tape. We'll talk about that, analyze that, and then I'm going to show you the stuff when it's actually on television as well. You'll see the way that kind of works, okay? So that's something to look forward to. The other thing, I want to leave you one thing, just to remind you, I'm going to be doing a masterclass. If you want to come along for that, after this video, you'll see the masterclass. Do register your interest. I'm going to be going over more kind of things like this. I'm going to take you through the entire journey of how I look at a script, how I break it down, how I work with directors, casting directors, the whole business, right? And I'm also going to break down how I worked on Sir Thomas Boleyn in, what's this now? Here, Arlene has a question about visualizing. Are you visualizing the actual casting you know is going to be there? What if you don't know them? Is this wrong? Well, if you think about it, if you're visualizing I would just have a generic thing. And my visualization, if I'm going in for an audition, I'm visualizing myself doing what I'm doing, being focused on what I'm doing, focused on my connection, focused on what I'm doing, and I then focus at the end of the audition, and I notice at the end of the audition that maybe there's a positive reaction from the casting director. That's it. I don't think about the casting director at all while I'm in there. No, not until the end. I come in, for me, like I was saying on Monday, go in there to do the job, not get the job. It's hard to explain. Do you see what I'm saying? Focusing on that. Do the job, not get the job. Okay? So, great question though, right? So you're focusing on, I'm coming in the room. I've done my whole, those of you who've done Total Audition Magician will know the whole the preparation that you do. The way you get into that, the way you activate your unconscious mind, the way you get all that, you start visualizing the entire thing. You see it going well, you have expectancy, you expect it to go well. When you do that, you send a message to your unconscious. Your unconscious then gets the idea. You sleep on this, all that, the whole process, right? We go through that, really wonderful thing. You go into the audition. Don't give a shit about everybody else. Talk to everybody else afterwards, no problem, but not at the time. It's your job, your time, for you. Be selfish in this moment, okay? Your stuff. You go in there, you do your thing, you've done your work, the casting director's there, visualizing all of that, and at the end of the visualization, you turn to the casting director and say, thank you so much, see you, bye, and you look at them and you see a positive result, okay? Come away, leave the audition room and let it go. So important. Move on to the next thing immediately. And I teach you that all through Total Audition Magician, all the way through Self-Taping Secrets, how you get rid of all that negative stuff that gets in the way. Okay? So if you don't know them, yeah, I mean, does that the 10th Doctor after Donna's mind wipe in Journey's End? Wow. Absolutely. Okay? Don't think I know that. Oh, Journey's End, the Doctor Who episode. Ah, right. No, that's what I was thinking. I think it was Journey's End, the Forster. Anyway, I'm not familiar with that one, but that's exactly those kind of things. This is the sort of stuff we want to be aspiring to. It's the stuff we want to be thinking about. It's the stuff that gets us going, right? You know, when you sit down with a whole load of actors, look what happened now. We just sit there and we chat. We go, oh, do you remember that bit? Oh, do you remember that thing? You remember when he did that, when she did that? Oh, that was incredible. You know, that's what we're doing. This is what we want to excite in casting directors. By the way, they're just human beings too. I know that's not the way we often think, but they are, right? Get the idea? Cool. Okay. Merci. Thank you, guys. Wonderful, Siobhan. Thank you. Siobhan's in Black Rock. Yeah, so that's the kind of thing we're talking about, okay? So, guys, thank you so much. If any one of you still wants the free calls, they're still available. People are really going for them, so it might not be till a little bit further down now, but we're doing well. So come along and sign up for a free call if you want to do that. And you've got the free training as well. If you go to my website, you'll see on the top of the website, you'll see it up there. And that's the 21 days. Okay? Any questions, drop me a line at, where is it now? peakactors@me.com, and I will see you Monday for part 3. By the way, anyone got any questions about anything you want me to cover? Are there any aspects, any thoughts, any videos you want me to make videos about? Let me know. Drop me down there. And I'll see you guys very soon. Have a wonderful weekend. Thank you so much. Lovely to see you. And thank you, Amber. That's very kind of you. Thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Katie, what can I say? God bless. Everybody there. See you soon. Oh, excuse me. Ooh, little cappuccino belch. Excuse me. See you Monday. Take care, guys. Bye now.